Daniel Sitaram Das Shankin is the founder of Mount Tam Psychedelic Integration, which supports individuals who are exploring their consciousness for spiritual growth and transformational healing. A yoga and meditation teacher for over 20 years, Daniel has dedicated his life to the cultivation of clarity, resilience, and heart. He uses tools from a wide variety of traditions to help his clients to develop powerful personal practices for psychedelic preparation and integration. Thanks so much for joining us, Daniel. We appreciate you, and welcome to Psyched.
Thanks for having me. Genesee and Jason, it's a hard act to follow, but I'll do my best. Let me share my screen. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to be talking about Ayurvedic preparation for psychedelic integration. I'm assuming my screen is visible. Right?
Yep, you're good.
Very good. So I lead integration circles. I do integration coaching. I've been a yoga and meditation teacher since 2001, and I've been using psychedelics since 1992. I've been sort of exploring in various ways for spiritual growth and healing and other forms of, I guess, entertainment and edification. Mount Tam psychedelic integration was founded a couple of years ago out of a need that I saw. You know, my clients were coming to me for this sort of work anyway, for personal coaching around preparation and integration. We also do meditation intensive classes. We host an online summit in September called the Psilocybin Summit. Of course, our main offering are community donation-based integration circles, and I host a podcast called Instrumental Breakthroughs, where I interview musicians about how psychedelics have inspired their creativity. So that's what we do. Our offices are in Marin County, California, and Berkshire County, Massachusetts. Cool. So this is a talk for practitioners, for people who are using psychedelics. That doesn't mean that I'm promoting or condoning the use of psychedelics. What I'm doing is promoting and condoning the use of Ayurveda meditation and yoga for people who already use psychedelics, right? So a slight distinction. It's also really one of the nice things to note is that everything we're going to cover is useful for your life, whether or not you are using psychedelics or not, or plant medicine, that this is for life. And the question emerges time and time again, how do I stabilize my mind and my body ahead of time? How do I create a foundation that supports and accepts intense experience so that it's useful and powerful, right? How do I ground afterwards? How do I support mental and emotional processing? And what activities will allow me to live according to my highest intentions? Right? So these are the things that come up a lot. And what we're going to look at is how Ayurveda helps to do this. And if you're asking, what is Ayurveda? Ayurveda it's a Sanskrit word, and it translates to mean the science of life. It is one of the sister sciences of yoga, right? It has the same philosophical underpinnings. It has two major activities, right? It's the health science branch, right? So Ayurveda usually works to manage somebody's health so that if they're doing things like yoga or meditation, or in this case, psychedelic journey work, that they're healthy enough to do it and to get benefit out of it. One of the major activities is the cultivation of sattva. You might know the word bodhisattva. And so it means purity of being or purity of perception. So creating that sort of higher state that can kind of channel more light and more wisdom and more compassion through it. The other thing that it does is it mitigates imbalance. You might have heard of the word dosha, right? Someone's like, oh, I'm Pitta Dosha, I'm Vata Dosha. And so that refers to the way that your own body goes out of balance. And we'll talk more about that. It comes from Samkhya philosophy, right? So it's based on this idea of Samkhya philosophy, which is a consciousness first model. And so what consciousness first means is that it's opposite from like rational materialist, which would say that consciousness originates in the brain, right? So we're not thinking that consciousness originates in the brain. We're thinking that the brain originates in consciousness. So up here at the top, you have basically the yin and yang. You have Purush, which is unchanging awareness. And if you're familiar with Hindu mythology, that's Shiva. And then on the other side, you have Prakriti, which is Mother Nature, right? So this is the goddess, this is Shakti. And Prakriti is everything that changes, the seasons, the fluctuations of your mind. 1 minute you're happy, 1 minute you're sad, the way your body changes over time, the way we age. And so between these two, consciousness and matter, we sort of all things manifest, right? And we're way down at the bottom. We're way down at the bottom. One thing I do want to point out is, let me open up the chat window. Okay, so Arun Kumar, welcome. So of Eastern philosophical model, finally, yes. So ahamkar is right there in the middle, this bud. This is the ego. And everybody's always talking about killing the ego, or the problem with the ego. In this model, the ego here, ahamkar, literally means I maker. So it's the part of consciousness that makes it individuates and it makes everything about itself, right? So it's one thing to have your senses work and be like, oh, okay, that's this kind of brown thing that has 4 appendages and, you know, these kind of white sharp things. And then there's another part of your mind is like, oh, that's a dog, right? That can classify and codify. And then there's another part of you that's like, oh my man, that dog's about to bite me. I better run away. Or, oh, that dog looks friendly, I should pet it, right? So there's a part of us that is always making things about us. When we take psychedelic, sometimes we get to hop up over ahamkar into mahat, right? And mahat is like cosmic consciousness, like, and wisdom. Like when you hop behind the ego and you see something like, oh my God, there's this vast intelligence that keeps all the planets in place. Oh my God, like everything is perfect and perfectly ordained, and like millions and millions of eons have conspired together to create this most perfect moment. And you kind of see behind the curtain, right? That's mahat, right? Most of the time we're down here in sattva, rajas, and tamas, which sattva means purity, rajas is activity, and tamas is stability, right? And it's more complicated than that. I'm really trying to cook through this as quick as I can. You'll forgive me. So the idea we were talking about the cultivation of sattva is we want to cultivate sattva so that we have a clearer vision of seeing, right? The more sattva we cultivate, the more likely we are to be able to look behind ahamkar without becoming distressed, right? Right. So one of the things that we want to do when we're preparing for our journeys, right? And so this is sort of like a personal, this is sort of the meditator version, right? If you were just talking to Genesee and she was talking about the therapeutic model, right? Where you're going to therapy. This is more like if you're a meditator or you're a soul practitioner, you're a magician, or you're an explorer and you're just doing your thing, right? You want to cultivate sattva in your setting, right? You certainly wouldn't want tamas, right? Unconscious, impure, destructive, wicked, harmful, deluded, right? Or even extroverted, powerful, desirous, right? Rajas moving into sattva is a lot of times when, you know, I'm in the Bay Area and we talk to people who have been very, very successful in their life and they've made lots of money and they've become very, you know, they've done lots of things in the material world and they realize, oh man, I just kind of need to move out of town and meditate more often and maybe work for a nonprofit, right? They're tuning into sattva. And so if we think about creating a setting for ourselves that is sattvic, right? Scripture, right? We look at things like, you know, books, right? Tamasic is maybe like conspiracy theories, right? Or just sort of violent images, things of that nature. And Raja scripture would be things like Tony Robbins, who I actually like his work very much, but he's Rajasic, right? Seeking wealth, seeking success, things of those natures. Sattvic literature, you know, books that promote peace and introversion and devotion. And the same thing all the way down, we just see is like, how do we create the most wholesome environment for ourselves as possible, right? Eating wholesome, fresh food, as opposed to like picking up a burger at a fast food joint, right? Am I hanging out with the most high quality, are my friends high quality, right? Is the place that I'm doing this in meditated, contemplative, clean, is there solitude, right? You don't want to eat a lot of psychedelics like in the middle of a marketplace or a business place or a place of wicked activity. These are copied right out of the Bhagavad Gita, by the way. And so on and so forth. And so these various actions, meditations, and mantras to create more and more sattva, right? So next slide. Down here at the bottom, right, we were talking about how the universe manifests from consciousness. What it does when it manifests into consciousness is from consciousness into matter, it takes on the 5 elements, right? So we've got from subtle to gross, right, which means most subtle, like the most like spaciousness, ether, air, fire, water, and earth, right? Really grounded earth, right? And the thing is that when we take psychedelics, we're pulled up into the ethers, we're pulled up into subtlety, right? And so a lot of the work that we want to do to create a firm foundation to have a psychedelic experience is to increase groundedness, right? And a lot of this is going to be with just good, stable habits, right? It's like, it's one thing to do a dieta. It's another thing to try and wake up and go to bed at the same time every day, right? And to have a regular meditation practice. So think regularity, right, for earth. Cooking into doshas, just cruising in. I know we're moving fast. We each have a unique constitution created by a combination of the elements. This affects the way our bodies and our minds function. When the elements are out of balance, we call that dosha, right? So some people have a predominance of space and air in their constitution. Right now, I'm kind of speaking very, very fast. I'm speaking like a Vata right now, right? Just quick motion, air, like breeze. Whew. Pitta people, right, have a lot of heat and fire and kind of water elements, right? So they can be very, very intense and fiery. And then Kapha qualities reflect the elements of water and earth. Probably the most famous Kapha in the world is Oprah Winfrey. The Rock would be Pitta with maybe some Kapha. And when you think of Vata, maybe we have like Gwyneth Paltrow. So, all right, we're actually doing okay. Okay, now I feel like I can ground a little. So Vata Dosha relates to prana, right? This is the realm, which is movement, prana, energy, movement, the realm of the brain and the nervous system, right? And so this energizes everything and all of our mental functions. So when we talk about, this part from the subconscious came to the surface, that's Vata, right? Vata brings things up. It's like, this thing I did. I was just talking to somebody, a student, and they were saying, what happens, what does it mean when you're doing this work? And a thought from 10 years ago. If you email me, you can get the slides, Margie. And hopefully, I think we're recording this, and I'll talk to the presenters and try and get a recording of this as well. So that they said, what does it mean when something from 10 years ago comes up, right? That's Vata. That's the prana is moving things to the surface. So when you have experiences of like shamanic travel, right? If you're on a journey, if your vision is very motion based, like, I'm starting in one place, I'm going to another, that's Vata. Tracking the subtle movement of the soma, right? So sometimes we're in meditation and we feel energy moving through our bodies. We feel our chakras light up and we're feeling, oh man, there's something tight here, but then it spirals up, right? Those sorts of experiences, that's Vata. People with predominant Vata are mentally agile, flexible. They can be scattered, superficial, or heady. There's can be a spiritual bypassing can be a thing. They're sensitive to cold. You want to keep them warm and give them Ayurvedic teas, right? I recommend yogi tea for just basic beginner Ayurveda. Buy the yogi tea that seems like you need it. Hypersensitive, nervous, anxious, and fearful. So if you are prone to hypersensitivity to sound and light, nervousness, anxiety, and fear in your psychedelic journeys, that's Vata Dosha. I was so afraid. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was really worried. Those are Vata issues, right? It sometimes also can be useful to have somebody to remind you like, we need to ground. Your Vata is happening. All right, cool. Pitta, Tejas, that which cooks. So here we have heat, and we have heat as transformation, digestion, and assimilation, right? So this is where like the integration sort of happens, where like a thing happens and then you gain insight into it. It's like, oh my God, that's what that meant. It's like when you take a psychedelic and you're like, oh my God, I've been a jerk for 20 years, right? The light goes on, right? The fire gets lit. Oh my God, maybe I shouldn't be such a jerk anymore, right? So deeper understanding and things like that, this. So Pitta, people with high Pitta are very intelligent, clear, penetrating wisdom. They can also be opinionated, willful, or critical, right? They can be intense and ambitious and judgy. So if a Pitta person is judging you, I just want you to know that they're judging themselves like 10 times harder. So if you're like super into self-judgment, you lack empathy for yourself and others, like Pitta. Pitta people also think they know best. If you walk into a room, like if you're watching this and you just are keeping track of everything I'm doing wrong and how you would do it better, that's Pitta, right? So they're sensitive to heat and control, right? Like I'm in control right now, ish, right? And you're like, I could do it better. I should be in control. I should be giving the thing. Pitta. Anger, 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 right? And so finding ways to soothe the anger, right? Cooling the heat, right? Iced tea, right? Right? Visualization of water, being near water, drinking water, things like meditation on the moon, right? Soothing ourselves down, right? Cool. All right. We might even hit, like we're going to get Kapha. So Kapha, stability, earth and water, cohesion. This keeps us sticky and held together. And they're sometimes are a little heavier and they're calmer. And this is where we have like emotion, feeling, love, devotion, and sentimentality, right? This is where those feelings of like universal love, oh my God, we're all connected. I love you. You're my brother. You're my sister. Like, oh my God, I can't believe we're really in it together. Oh man, we're going to change the world. We're going to teach people love is the answer, right? I mean, and that ambition is a little bit more Vata or Pitta, but you know, the sentiment of just like love, right? It's like this earth mother quality is really, really Kapha. And so they're really into kind of like sweetness and being connected and being social. They don't necessarily like new people, right? These people probably want to be in a space that's very comfortable and known to them, right? They're very traditional, sometimes culturally, but just traditional in their life. You know, they're habit bound. So they're resistant to change, stagnation, new people, and they can't let go, right? So that's tricky, right? It's like if you are sitting there and thinking about your high school sweetheart from 10 years ago, you haven't spoken to them in 8 years, that's a Kapha issue. You gotta just let that go. And also this sort of the energy is like dropping here, like there's this grounded energy, and that can sometimes lead into depression, right? And so like sort of depression and lethargy and not necessarily taking joy in things can be a Kapha thing. Now, Vatas get depressed too, but they get depressed because they get exhausted, because they move, they run, and then they just get wiped out. Pitta people get depressed because they're judging themselves too hard, right? So that is tough. Cool. So all of these, so here when we were talking about from gross to subtle, is we have earth element at the bottom, we have ether or air in the throat. One of these things that you would want to do, and I wish we had more time for this sort of thing, is breathing to the chakra center that relates to the element that you want to work with, right? It's one practice. Right? Begin with the root, right? This is from a class that I teach, right? Dinacharya, consistent practice, going to sleep, waking up at the same time. Evacuation, making sure you're pooping properly, right? That's happening regularly. Doing breathing practices, alternate nostril breathing, oil massage if your skin is rough. These are really good nourishing spices, right? And again, I'm sorry we don't have more time for this, but just using these spices to just nurture yourself, right? I have nourishing spices in my cup right now. Nadi Shodhana Pranayam, alternate nostril breathing. Super great. Very, very powerful. And I wish we had time to do it, but we don't. But we did get through the slides. And we're back to TAM integration. Reach out to me if you would like preparation or integration coaching. Do not reach out to me if you want drugs. I won't give you any. I don't have any. If you want meditation class, integration intensive, I do that a couple of times a year. Do we have any questions? 20 minutes, 2:20. I did it.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Daniel. Really appreciate you doing this for us. If you actually want to lead a meditation, that's completely fine with us. We can do that. We can ask a couple questions. What's best for you?
If people have questions, we can answer them.
Okay. Well,
if they don't, we can breathe.
There haven't been any audience questions yet. The one thing I would like to ask is, we got an audience question. Let's start with that one then. Do most folks fit into one category, or are some folks mixed between the multiple categories you described?
Everybody's mixed, right? So you wouldn't think, so there's no, in this world, this material world, there's no like pure fire, right? Like even the fire that we see in a campfire, there's air and there's wood, there's earth, and, all that kind of stuff. We have a combination of elements inside of us. And so these are kind of guidelines of the way things tend to happen, right? And so, but there are combinations of Vata Pitta, which are people who are, I'm sort of Vata Pitta, and I get the best of both worlds. When it's winter, when things are cold, I get more Vata. When things are hot, I get more Pitta, right? And some people are Pitta Kapha, and then some, where's the Pitta slide again? And so some people are tridoshic, right? Would the Brahma Muhurta time be more conducive for a plant medicine journey? I mean, that would be very nice. I would probably start to use, so Brahma Muhurta, for those of you who don't know, is like the time before sunrise. That is when you think about a yogi waking up early to do their meditation. The Brahma Muhurta is the kind of the time before the material world, people who are into like just rushing around and doing commerce, right? You have this kind of it's considered to be a very sattvic time that is very, very good for meditation. And I would think that would be very wonderful for a short acting psychedelics. Because I mean, Brahma Muhurta, some of these psychedelics last all day. And if you were taking something that was long lasting, you're taking psilocybin or something like that, that I would definitely want to maximize my Brahma Muhurta time for preparation. You know what I mean? It's like, so doing your dinacharya, like really making sure that you are like washing yourself and anointing yourself and doing oil massage and doing your meditations. And if you have an intention, doing things like that. What about also timing with full moon, new moon? Dattatreya, you're asking good questions. Well, what I would just do, I'm going to plug my wife. So my wife, somyadevi.com, is a Vedic astrologer. And if you wanted to talk about like an auspicious astrological time to do your journey, the three of us could get together. It wouldn't be cheap necessarily, but we could do it. We could figure it out. And we could figure it out. But I don't think that for any one person, a full moon or a new moon would be great. Okay, I'll just type to all panelists and attendees, somyadevi.com. She's pretty great, if I do say so myself. And got a new perspective on the way of life that I was brought up on. Awesome, man. It's like I have so much respect and gratitude for just like being able to study this stuff. You have no idea that it basically saved my life. Like I was going very, very hard in the 90s. I was a kind of just a hippie kid, and I was doing a little bit of yoga, and I stretched my mind kind of far. I did a lot of psychedelics, and I found to be here now, and they were like, one of the old big kids were like, do the stuff in the back and you'll be okay. And so I did the stuff in the back and started doing yoga practice, became a yoga teacher. I could have been an acid casualty, and instead I'm what you see before you. Right on. So I don't want to take up too much time. I think we're at 2:25.
Yes, but we do have 5 minutes left. If you want to lead a breathing exercise, that would be awesome.
Oh, okay. We'll breathe an exercise. So what I would like you to do, if you don't mind, is just sort of consider the central channel of your body. It's a little bit in front of your spine. And so there's just a channel of light and energy. A book I would recommend, you could start with Ayurveda and the Mind. You could start with David Frawley books. Is popular, you know, it works for people. It's not too hard. There's another book called The Radiant Sutras. That stuff's on my website, and I'll answer questions too later, but let's just breathe from the crown of the head, inhaling up and exhaling down to the root. And inhaling up and exhaling down. And just consider as you're doing this, breathing evenly up, evenly down, same count for inhale and exhale. Just please visualize at the base of your spine as earth, right? The quality of earth and heaviness and everything you know archetypally about earth. And then as you slowly rise the breath, move through water, move through fire, move through air, and then move up into space. And then at the crown of the head is just like pure light. It's like the sun, right? So it's like you're traveling from the earth to the sun with your breath. And then you exhale down the sun at the crown of the head and you're moving through space. You're moving through the atmosphere. You're feeling the quality of air. You're feeling the quality of fire in your belly. The wateriness, the oceans, the lakes, the rivers, the streams. Exhale to earth, the mountains, the valleys. And so just do this a few times. Just enjoy sort of embodying the elements. The elements will protect you in your psychedelic journeys, right? The elements want you to be healthy and happy, right? They will come to your aid. You recognize that they are in you, you are in them. So again, from bottom to the top is earth, water, fire, air, space, and then the sun, which kind of represents, you know, the sacred. And then from the sun to the space, to the air, to the fire, to the water, and the earth. And just do that a few more times. If you do this practice over time, you'll notice that different ones will have different messages for you. You can start to just explore each one in its time. But for now, just, you know, shaking hands, greeting, bowing to each element, right? Bringing the energy up, bowing to the earth, bowing to the water, bowing to the fire, bowing to the air, bowing to the space, and bowing to the sacred. All right, coming down, letting there be peace in space, letting there be peace in the air, letting there be peace in the fires, peace in the water, and peace in the land. And just maybe one more time up, and one more time down. And so I thank you very, very much. I hope that that was useful to you. I hope that that gives you much joy and health and happiness, that it gives you more of a foundation from which to explore your consciousness in a healthy and fulfilling way. And I do really want to appreciate, just thank the Psych 2020 team for inviting me and for creating this lovely event.
Thanks so much, Daniel. We really appreciate the time and looking forward to talking more soon.
Awesome. Come around.